Hello, grade fives and sixes. So yesterday's Brain Buster was the puzzle that you see in front of you here. It is a square. It's broken up into a whole bunch of little triangles, and the challenge was to figure out how many triangles there were in this image. So I'm going to take you through my process of how I solved it, and then you can see how close you got. So the way I broke it down was first I looked at the big square and noticed that I could break it down into smaller squares. So I'm talking about this section right here, the small squares. And I'm just going to see how many triangles I can find in this square because there are 4 of those. So however many I find in this square, I should be able to multiply that by 4 to get started. So in this square, I can clearly see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4 of the small triangles. So that right there gave me 1, 2, 3, 4 times 4 because there are 4 squares. So that's going to give me 16 triangles, right? So 4 small squares. 4 small triangles times 4 squares is going to give me 16 of those small triangles. And I'm just going to, erase that because I also noticed that within that single square, I haven't found all the triangles. Switching my color up, I also noticed that I could put those triangles together to make larger triangles, and that would give me a triangle right there. So there's one there, and I can just keep rotating around and I will find there's another one, and switch my color again. Here's another one, and if I switch my color one more time, there's one more right here. So each one of these small squares also has a double triangle in it. There's 4 double triangles. So that again is going to give me 4 times 4 is going to give me 16. And so far I have found a total of 32 triangles, and I've only been looking in these single squares. We're not done yet. So I'm just going to erase that single square work. And now the next thing I noticed was I can also look for triangles within rectangles that are made up of 2 squares. So if I put these 2 squares together, this is the section I'm talking about. And within this rectangle, I can see 2 triangles that I've missed. The first one is facing this way. So there's one triangle here. And then I'll switch my color so that we can see it clearly. If I go upside down, here is another large triangle right here. So there's 2. Now the question is, how many of those little rectangles can I find? Because there's 2 triangles in each of those rectangles. I'm just going to switch up my color so I can see the rectangle that I have in red here. There's a rectangle right here. If I put these 2 squares together, so that'll give me another 2 triangles. There's a rectangle using these 2 squares. And finally, there is a rectangle if I use these 2 squares. So there are 4 2-squared rectangles in this puzzle, and each one of those rectangles has 2 large triangles in it, so that's going to give me plus 8, and now I'm at 40 triangles. And I'm just going to erase this again because we're not done. There are more. Following that same pattern. I started off looking at the single square, then I put 2 squares together. Now what happens if I put 3 squares together? So looking at, if I just take these 3 squares right here, and I can see, just looking at those 3 squares, there is one giant triangle that I can make right here, which is just half of the giant square. Well, how many of those can I make? Switching up my color. I've got one there. Obviously, there's going to be a matching one on the other side. Switching my color again. There's going to be one here. Green's not the best choice, sorry guys. And finally, there's going to be another one on the other side. So there we go. We've got another 4 triangles, and that's how I arrived at my solution. There are 44 triangles. Now, many of you were in the 30s with your calculations, which is awesome. I had one student who found 56. I would love to hear from that student in the comments, either on Edsby or YouTube. Did you double count any triangles? Did I happen to miss some? Please let me know. And I will see you guys on Edsby.